Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Talk About Jesus Everyday TAJED. Today we're continuing on Matthew chapter 19, but we're looking at verses 16 to 26. This is the story of the rich man who came to Jesus Christ and asked what he must do to be saved. And Jesus Christ told him about the commandment and he said, I have kept all of them. And Jesus Christ said, okay, go sell all your belongings, give to the poor and come follow me. That saddened his heart, I believe, because he didn't obey, he left. And Jesus Christ said to his disciples that it will be very difficult for a rich man to make the kingdom of heaven. As a matter of fact, it will be easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into heaven. Now the big question here is, so for every follower of Jesus Christ to make heaven, do they have to be poor? The answer is no. If you recall, in the book of Genesis, God told Abraham to take Isaac and go sacrifice him to him. And Abraham obeyed. And then they got to the place. As Abraham was wanting to do it, God told him to stop. For there was a sacrifice that was already hanging on the tree. What was God looking for there? Abraham's obedience. That was the same thing that was repeating itself in this story. Jesus was looking at his total obedience. There would have been the possibility that Jesus would have stopped him. But however, even though Jesus did not stop him, Jesus would not have allowed him to go poor while he was following him. If we know most of the testimonies we've heard of people whom God has instructed or the Holy Spirit has instructed to part with things that were very precious with them, oftentimes they parted though, and then God gave them something that was better than that thing that they held on to. What was God looking for there? Obedience, total obedience. There's a requirement of total obedience when we're following God, when we're followers of Jesus Christ. We obey instructions as per time, no matter how difficult these instructions pose themselves. What God is looking for, it's our obedience, total obedience to his instructions to us. Commitment to what he wants us to do is what is important, is what is critical to every believer. It's not just being a believer. You're not a believer. When your father says, go right, you go right. Go left, you go left. Stay here, you stay here. Obedience is the key thing. Obedience is the key principle of being a follower of Jesus Christ. And that was what Jesus was looking for in that man, and he failed. However, Peter said, then who then can make heaven if this is the situation? Jesus said, with men it is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Everything is possible with God, because if men are obedient to him, the wealth that they are looking for, they wouldn't even look for it. The wealth will come looking for them, and they will begin to disperse that wealth, because the wealth will no longer be a priority to them. What will be priority to them is following after the instructions of God, which will be key. And so it is important that we know that for every believer, our total obedience and submission to the instructions of God is key in our walk with God. I'll end it there today. I will continue on the final part of Matthew chapter 19 before we move on in the next episode. For now, it's bye and God bless.